Ladies and gentlemen of the Committee on the Rights of the Child, I appear before you as legal counsel, representing Hediya, a Kurdish woman seeking justice and protection for her child Kawa, in the face of impending expulsion by the Turkish authorities. The relevance of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, also referred to as the CRC, to this case is profound, especially through the lens of Article 22 and the Refugee Convention, outlining the criteria for refugee status. In the CRC, in particular, recognizes the special need of child refugees, emphasizing their rights to appropriate protection and humanitarian assistance. I assume that the committee is aware of the facts of the case, and based on this, I will continue. The Kurdish population, particularly in Syria, has faced systematic ethnic discrimination and repression, as outlined by the Human Rights Watch's extensive documentation of Syrian authorities' discriminatory practices. This discrimination spans ethnically based programs, removal of nationality, land confiscation, limitations on the freedom of movement, employment restrictions, language prohibitions, and disruption of cultural celebrations, which is against the principles of non-discrimination. The persistent hostilities towards Kurdish political and cultural expression in Syria creates a context that necessitates international protection, particularly for vulnerable children like Kawa. In applying Article 22 and the Refugee Convention to the facts at hand, we encounter a situation where Hediya and Kawa, escaping persecution and ethnic discrimination in Syria, find themselves entangled in a flawed refugee determination process in Turkey. The mischaracterization of their plight during the UNHCR hearing underscores the urgency for a nuanced application of the law to rectify the misconceptions surrounding their asylum claim. A refugee under international law is an individual who meets specific conditions. The inclusion clauses such as persecution, serious harm, failure of state protection, and genuine need for protection are integral to determining refugee status. The exclusion clauses relating to conduct like membership in a terrorist organization demand careful consideration. The mention of Hediya's potential association with the YPG, deemed a terrorist organization by some countries, introduces a potential exclusion clause. However, careful consideration is required to determine whether this association justifies the exclusion. A child refugee, as outlined in Article 22, refers to a child who is either actively seeking refugee status or has already been recognized as a refugee in accordance with applicable international or domestic law and procedures. The key criteria for being considered a child refugee under this article involves the child's status in relation to seeking or having obtained refugee status in accordance with the legal processes and criteria. In Syria, much of the Kurdish majority region is governed autonomously as the AANES, also known as Rojava, since 2012. However, this autonomy is not internationally recognized, adding layers of complexity to the situation. Sahil Abdi and Hediya Ahmed, both activists advocating for Kurdish rights, faced imprisonment in 2005 for their involvement in an unlicensed organization. Their release in 2008 led them to Kobani, where they became part of the ANES government. The ISIS siege of Kobani in 2014 forced hundreds of thousands, including Sahil, Hediya, and their twins Dilo and Kawa, to flee to Turkey. The UNHCR refugee status determination hearing, flawed in its understanding, and failed to recognize the nuanced reasons for their flight. The officer's decision, which inaccurately attributed their escape to armed conflict rather than ethnic discrimination, highlights a crucial lapse in evaluating the best interests of the child. Turkey, though a host to many refugees, has its own challenges in the refugee status determination process. The specifics of how this process is conducted, especially concerning those fleeing armed conflicts or ethnic discrimination, deserve scrutiny. The mischaracterization of Hediya's situation during the UNHCR hearing underscores potential flaws and gaps in the evaluation process. The failure of state protection is a critical aspect of this case. Hediya, a former political activist, faces expulsion to territory controlled by the Syrian government, putting her at significant risk due to her Kurdish identity. The potential denial of assurances regarding their return to Kobani heightens this risk, warranting intervention to prevent a violation of international human rights obligations. The UNHCR officers' failure to recognize the ethnic discrimination and potential risk faced by Hediya and Kawa in Syria underscores a critical flaw in the protection process, emphasizing the misjudgment in categorizing their escape as an outcome of armed conflict rather than an ethnic discrimination. It's crucial. A successful challenge could lead to a reconsideration of Hediya and Kawa's refugee status, aligning with the principles of the CRC and the Refugee Convention. But success is contingent on the willingness of Turkish authorities to revisit the decision. Engaging with Turkish authorities is essential to secure thorough and reconsideration of Hediya and Kawa's refugee status. This involves presenting evidence of the ongoing risk faced by Kurds in Syria and the potential danger waiting them upon expulsion. Diplomatic engagement may lead to more comprehensive understanding of the nuances of this case, but the success of this approach relies on the cooperation of Turkish authorities, which may be challenging. Applying Article 22 of the CRC to this case demands a meticulous examination of Kawa's best interests, factoring in the misjudgment during the UNHCR hearing, the flawed determination process, and the looming threat of expulsion to a potential dangerous territory. The committee's intervention is essential to rectify these shortcomings, uphold the rights of the child, and ensure a just and humane resolution for Hediya and Kawa. Applying Article 22 to this case involves recognizing the unique challenges faced by child refugees. Hediya's political involvement and the Turkish authorities' refusal to provide assurances pose a direct threat to Kawa's well-being. The committee's intervention is essential to rectify these shortcomings. Legal solutions require challenging the UNHCR decision, empathizing the misjudgment, and asserting the best interest of Kawa. Engaging with Turkish authorities, we aim to secure a thorough reconsideration of Hediya and Kawa's refugee status, aligning with international obligations. Success hinges on the commitment of Turkish authorities to rectify these shortcomings. The best interest of the child, a foundational principle of the CRC, Article 3 addresses the determination of the best interests of the child in all actions involving them. In these actions, the best interest of the child must be a primary consideration. State parties are required to ensure the child's well-being, considering the rights and duties of parents, legal guardians, or individuals responsible for the child. The CRC must guide all actions and decisions concerning Kawa. This includes considering her safety, well-being, and potential risk associated with the expulsion to Syrian territory. Applying the best interest principle to Kawa's situation requires a holistic evaluation. The flawed UNHCR decision, coupled with the potential risk in Syria, mandates a careful and child-centric approach in any legal action. Exploring the possibility of seeking asylum in a third country, one recognizes the unique risk faced by Kurds and is willing to uphold international obligations is an option. This provides an alternative solution that ensures the safety and well-being of Kawa, but it may involve complex diplomatic negotiations and is based on the finding of a willing host country. Seeking intervention from international human rights bodies such as the Committee on the Rights of the Child could be a strategic move to draw attention to the potential violation of Kawa's rights. but then again, the process may take some time. In conclusion, our plea is rooted in the legal principles of Article 22 of the CRC and the Refugee Convention, coupled with the best interests of the child. We implore the committee to stand as a beacon of justice, ensuring the protection and well-being of Kawa, whose future hangs in the balance. The legal solution presented aim to rectify the shortcomings in the protection process, uphold the rights of the child, and ensure a just and humane resolution for Hediya and Kawa. Thank you.